And hello once more, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to episode 8 of the Druids Dozen, where my name's John Wisby. Some people call me the Rock Druid, and I'm a radio DJ. I do a couple of radio shows. There's the Sunday Rock Show on BCFM radio and in Bristol in the UK, 93.2 FM. And there's the Rock Druid on astroradio.earth. The world's leading science and music-based station. And basically, this is the Druids Dozen, where basically I kind of wander through my substantial record collection. I grab a dozen at random, and I'll wave them in front of the camera, and I'll talk about them for a bit, and introduce my new co-host, Albrecht, the Badger. Yes, long story that involves badgers, muffs, and Calder Pavonis, the Bristol goth band, but I ain't going to go there, not today. But those of you that have seen Aliens Stashed in live will recognise the Badger, the god that is the Badger. Anyway, I digress. So, without further ado, we shall pass straight in with some album reviews. And again, a quick reminder, I apologise that I can't play clips off these albums, algorithms, etc., both on Facebook and YouTube. Will give me copyright strikes and lots of brownie point demerits, and yeah, not going to be much fun. So, but always, that's what Google's for. You can Google any of these albums or bands, and you should be able to hear roughly what they sound like. Anyway, we're going to kick off with one that I think's a bit of a gem, and it's this. There's the front. It is, of course, Motorhead's Another Perfect Day. There's the back. And if I take this out here, there's the lyric sheet. And if you turn it over, I'll hold this up so you can pause it and have a read should you want. There's a rather humorous cartoon starring Motorhead preparing for a tour. Now, Another Perfect Day, Motorhead's 1983 album. I'll just double check it's 83. Pretty sure it is. Where are we? Yeah, copyright 1983. Marked a significant change for Motorhead, this album. Fast Eddie Clarke went off to form Fastway, and you can say, oh, this is an old album that's fallen to bits. Eddie Clarke went off to form Fastway, and Motorhead were looking for a new guitarist, and they brought in Brian Robertson from Thin Lizzy. Interesting choice, and one that took many people by surprise. And basically, this was the only album they recorded with him, and I don't think he lasted the full tour. The guy, put it this way, the guy ended up being thrown out of Motorhead for excessive drinking, which is it goes a lot to show about Mr. Robertson's alcohol intake. But anyway, they left this album behind, one that kind of tends to divide sort of like Motorhead fans. It's, some people, me included, rate it as a one of their best, a real forgotten gem. Other people can't get on with it at all. I can understand why, because it is a significant kind of departure from the style that they had laid out over likes of Bomber, Ace of Spades, Iron Fist, etc. First of all, this album's a lot more musical, and that's no disrespect to any member of Motorhead who were prior to this, who were great players, but Brian Robertson's his kind of his adding to the lineup gave Motorhead a dimension that they had previously not had. Gave them a subtlety. Gave them almost the kind of, Motorhead always had a massive blues kind of lick going through them. But this kind of took that blues lick and made it into a more, I don't want to say Lizzy-esque, because there's no twin guitars or any kind of Lizzy-isms on here, but it put it into a more kind of heavy hard rock category rather than the pure kind of riff and bludgeon of the early Motorhead albums. Personally, I think this is a great album. Tracks like Shine, Dancing on Your Grave, Marching Off to War, the title track, Tales of Glory, Die You Bastard, Back at the Funny Farm, I've Got Mine, which is one of my favourite Motorhead tracks. Every track on here is a winner. Yeah, love the album artwork as well. You know, it's the first album where they started to take the Snaggletooth skull and really start to experiment with it in an artistic vein. And the upshot is, it's a cracking album. Right up until last time I saw Motorhead was about a year or so before Lemmy died, and they were still doing a couple of tracks off this album live. You know, and I know that Lemmy has turned around and said that this is one of his favourites. So, yeah, worth checking out if you. But if you're gonna if you've never heard Motorhead, I wouldn't start with this album, because this isn't. It's very typical, very Motorhead-esque, but it's not pure sort of like old school Motorhead. It's a Motorhead plus. Yeah, number one, Another Perfect Day by Motorhead. Great album. And we reach for a CD next, and we have this one. This is an EP. The die has been cast by Brockley Forest, or as my missus calls them, Brockley Florets. There's the front. There's the back. There's no inlay card. There's the gatefold sleeve. There's the disc. And what can I say about this lot? Well, they're a two-piece kind of alternative rock band. If you've heard bands like the Picture Books, then you'll know roughly where these guys are coming from. Just guitarist, vocalist and a drummer. And yeah, they kind of do this kind of, it's kind of heavy, it's almost like punk, but it's an interesting blend, put it that way. There's elements of prog in there as well as kind of alt rock sensibilities and all other kinds of malarkey. I've seen these guys live a couple of times, and interesting, they kind of sat up facing each other across the stage rather than facing the audience, and when they perform, it's an interesting experience, because it's like looking in on a performance, almost like a theatrical performance rather than a straight rock and roll live show. You know, once these guys get going, I understand why they kind of sat up facing each other, is because they need to feed off each other. And yeah, it's pretty good. The cuts on here: Rubicorn, Feel Alive, Taboo, Get Us Out of Here, Eastern Land. Just very, very. I don't know. I wish I could play you a couple of snippets off here, but just very, very good. Band's still together, still going. This EP came out about 3 or 4 years ago. I don't know if they've released anything since. I know I've had a couple of demo cuts off them more recently, but nothing on hard copy. I know they're still together, so if you go and have a look on sort of SoundCloud, Bandcamp, you know, Facebook, etc., you should be able to find them and work out where you can get your hands on some of their music. But yeah, interesting one for those that like kind of quirky, quite introspective, but kind of quite intense, kind of alternative rock. Brockley Forest, The Die Has Been Cast. Next up, a bit more vinyl, and today's first, maybe the only visit, definitely the first. Let's have a look what else we've got lined up. Yeah, our only bit of new wave of British heavy metal these days on today's show. It is called Power and Passion by Fermanagh Boys, the Mummers Boys. There's the front. There's the back. Don't think there's any inserts or inner sleeves on here. No, just the here out of sleep. Now, Mama's Boys are a band out of County Fermanagh over there in Northern Ireland, and they were a three-piece originally. The three brothers, you had, let's have a look, remember rightly, there was Pat McManus on guitar and violin, there was John McManus who was the bassist and vocalist, and Tommy McManus who was the drummer. Now these guys started out in the 1970s, in their early teens. They're various family members of theirs were in one of those big Irish rock and roll show bands that were so popular in Ireland back in the 60s, 70s and early 80s. And they learnt their craft literally on the road, going around Ireland, both North and Republic, with the show bands. And you know, by about 1980, these guys were beginning to kind of learn how to play, and as they hit their mid to late teens, were beginning to discover the love of heavy metal and hard rock. So the Mama's Boys were born. They did an Ireland-only album called Official Bootleg, and then a string of 3 albums as a three-piece. There was Plug It In, Turn It Up, and then this one, Power and Passion, which came out in '85. After this album, they kind of had a bit of a line-up change, recruited a vocalist, and did a few more albums out of it. They carried on until the early 1990s, when drummer Tommy McManus sadly died after a long battle of leukemia, and you know, his two brothers thought, well, you know, we can't be the Mama's Boys when one of the Mama's Boys is no longer here, and so they called it quits. It's a shame because they were a cracking band. Personally, I prefer their earlier stuff when they were a three-piece, although I do possess all their other albums they did as a four-piece, and although they haven't quite got the bite and the immediacy of those first 3 albums, they're still worth a listen. But this, in my opinion, is their finest hour. My first ever live chance of watching the Mama's Boys live was catching them on this tour at the old Granary Club in Bristol, and with Alaska in support, which was another kind of big bonus. And just amazing set. On this album, you've got Hard and Now, Straightforward, No Looking Back, Letting Go, Needle in the Groove, Run, Power and Passion, Don't Tell Mama, The Professor, and Let's Get High, which for many years, right until they kind of called it quits, provided the main guts of their live set. Tracks like Don't Tell Mama is my favourite Mama's Boys track. Big, anthemy, sort of air punchy piece of gloriousness. The Professor too. The Professor, it's the first track. The Professor was on one of the earlier albums. Is just a kind of showcase of Pat McManus's musical prowess, both as a guitarist and as a violinist. The guy could play some of the meanest rock and roll violin you'll ever find outside a Slade album. Needle in the Groove, their one and only UK hit single, kind of I don't know, nod along, quite sleazy, quite it got kind of slow boogie kind of beat to it. That's all about women getting turned on by listening to the records. My baby loves to move when the needle's in the groove. I don't think it's about anything else, honest. Anyway, there's these guys let their kind of Irishness show through. There's lots of kind of post Lizzie, post Hogslips kind of little kind of jiggy moments. They've got a kind of Celtic swing to them, but on the other hand, they can be as heavy as hell. Just a great album to rock out to. So, if you want to get into the Mama's Boys, again, not this stuff. This one may be a bit hard to track down, but if you want to check the Mama's Boys out, the Power and Passion album is the place to start. And if you're into good music in general, add this to your collection. You will not regret. Okay, next up, another CD. And another, this is one, I've had a few of these on the show, where I've got the vinyl. The vinyl's beginning to wear out, so I've ended up buying the CD to kind of replace it. Because sometimes they have bonus tracks, which I've wanted. Bonus tracks are the reason I brought this. There's the front. It is, of course, Floodland by the Sisters of Mercy. There's the back. There's the gatefold sleeve thingy. Anything behind there? No, nothing behind the disc. And here's the booklet. Various pictures. And there we are. And yeah, now now Floodland, Sisters of Mercy's 1987 album. That's the second or third album they did, but it's the one that kind of marked a big kind of change from where they were going. Up until the album before this, is it the First and Last and Everything? They were kind of four-piece kind of classic goth band. Yeah, very gothic. And but in between that one and this one coming out, Michael Eldridge either sacked or alienated the rest of the band, full stop. Meaning that with the exception of the backing vocalist, whose face is just peering over there, this is basically a Michael Eldridge solo album released under the name Sisters of Mercy. And although that may upset some pure Sisters of Mercy fans, it's a good album. There's no denying it. It's kind of a lot more electronic and sort of like dancey productions and that kind of thing than the earlier albums. It's got yeah, but it's kind of almost slick. There's not drum machines on here and masses and masses of synths. But it can't be denied, when it comes to goth rock, this is one of the all-time classics. I mean, the double whammy opener of the double header of Dominion and Mother Russia. You've got the Flood Part 1, Part 2, which is one of the most erotically dark songs you can ever come across. Lucretia, My Reflection, the massive hit single off this Corrosion, Driven Like Snow, and a fragment of Neverland. Additional tracks on here, which is the reason I brought this. You've got a spine-tingling cut called Torch. I will hold the torch for you. Brilliant song, one of my favourite Sisters of Mercy tracks. A full-length version of Neverland, which comes in at about 12 minutes long. A couple of other cuts, Emma and Colours, which were B-sides if I remember rightly. Yeah, this album is dark, it's intense. I tend to listen to this one late at night with all the lights out. Just sit back and just let it wash over you. This album's it's erotic almost in places. There's a feel about this that has got that kind of dark sensuality which all good goth should bring through. And yeah, not much else to say. It is a bit of a classic. If you haven't heard it, shame on you. But all goths must have this in their collection. I think it's law that if you relate with the gothic subculture, a copy of Floodland has to be in your collection at all times. And those of you that may be goth curious or know what real goth music sounds like, Floodland, Sisters of Mercy, great place to start. Now this is where I get a load of people in the comments going, oh, but that's not real goth, blah blah blah. Screw you. I'm not in a kind of I'm not a genre Nazi. I just speak what I hear, and if you want to make big issues and argue about what is and what isn't something, your problem, not mine. Talking about upsetting people, this next one is going to cause some upset, I know, but can't be helped. Like I said, I draw these, I just go along with your acts and go, that one that one, grab 6 vinyl albums, grab 6 CDs and come and sit down and start recording. And I don't know until I grab what's coming out. And unfortunately, I pulled out this one. Now, I don't like giving disparaging reviews and slagging off. I like to think I'm one of these people that no matter what something is musically, I can normally find something to kind of give it a sort of like redeeming feature, a bit of a, let's say nice things about it. Yeah, this is a Hysteria by Def Leppard from 1987. Yeah, there's that one. There's the front. There's the back. Pull this out. You've got inner sleeve. You've got the more bump on there. Now, I know what you're thinking. Classic album, Def Leppard's big breakthrough record. You know, what's there not to like? Well, I'll tell you what's not to like. Basically the entire album. There's 2 tracks on here. 2 tracks. Sorry, that way, didn't mean to do that to you. There are 2 tracks on here that I think are passable. The lead single, Animal, and Hysteria, the title track. The rest of it, well, put it this way. Before I came on air and came to record this, I gave this album another play for the first time in many years, just to see if my opinions of it had changed. They haven't. Basically, this album bores me pissy. This is everything that's wrong with 80s rock and MTV era US metal. Even though, Def Leppard, Sheffield band, and also this is an album that I can't help but feel stabbed me in the back. Yeah, I was a massive Def Leppard fan right from the day of On Through the Night, their first album. Really liked High and Dry. Even thought Pyromania, although a lot more commercial than its 2 predecessors, were good. Then we had the tragedy of Joe Elliott's, what's his name? Can't remember the name of the drummer. Rick Allen, the drummer, I couldn't remember his name. You know, there was his car crash, he's losing his arm, his rehabilitation, he's inventing ways he could carry on playing drums with kick triggers and that. And don't get me wrong, the guy's a hero for learning how to play drums. However, he's not a hero, or any of them are heroes for recording this album. Def Leppard used to have a bit of bite to them. They had a bit of edge. This album, with the possible exception of 2 tracks I've already mentioned, is just meh. And then it goes even worse than that. There's Pour Some Sugar on Me, which is basically, it's Queen's We Will Rock You with different bloody lyrics. Is that, or was it Rocket? There's a track on here that's, I can't remember. Even though I said it's so forgettable. I only played this about an hour and a half ago. Yeah, I'm forgetting large chunks of it already. It's just so bland, it's dull. No wonder MTV lapped it up and they became huge American superstars. But for me, it killed Def Leppard full stop. And to be honest with you, apart from a few promos I've been sent, I haven't brought a Def Leppard album since. And I only keep this one in the collection just to remind me why I don't listen to modern Def Leppard. Don't get me wrong, if you like it, more power to you, because you're seeing something in here that I can't. And but to me, it's another one of these examples of bands that have gone down roads that I don't like them going down. I mean, it happened to Whitesnake, it happened to Status Quo, it happened to Marillion. Even Hawkwind wandered off for a bit down a kind of horrible rave direction, which really made me vomit. But I can't. Bands don't make albums for the individual. I'm no doubt if Joe Elliott had kind of phoned me up during the going in to produce this album and said, John, what do you want to do on the new Def Leppard album? You know, and then followed what I said. You know, you may have had the same songs, but they'd have been produced in a different way. It would have been far heavier, far grittier. You know, the Queen rip-off wouldn't be on here. And, yeah, and basically it wouldn't have happened. But anyway, this is just purely my opinion. You know, you can leave hate comments in the, leave hate messages in the comments. Tell me why I'm wrong by all means. But I just don't like this album. If you do, good luck to you, but not one for me. I would say go for On Through the Night or Pyromania or High and Dry instead. Okay, next up, another CD. There we have, there's the front. This is Doll by, with the album Ragdoll Diaries. There's the front. There's the back. We'll open this up. First of all, in here we have those one of those press releases I keep telling you about. Come on. Not so much a booklet, just a mega long fold out. Come on. There's one side. And there's the other. Now, Doll are a Canadian band. I can't remember exactly where they are in Canada. Canada's a big place. You know, it goes from the east side to the west side, with thousands of miles of mountains and rocks and lakes and, you know, prairies and that in between. Somewhere in the middle of there, there's the place where Doll are from. And these guys are a kind of alternative punk band, bit grungy. You know, they're definitely hints of maybe Soundgarden or Jane's Addiction on the thing. Bit punk as well, kind of sort of Generation X maybe, that kind of thing. But overall, it's a damn good album. One that a few years ago when this came out, when was it? 2011, contended our Album of the Year award on BCFM, and I think it had a top 5 finish, this one. But anyway, it's just a cracking little album. Highlight on this are 2 tracks. There's Youth of Today, Hope of Tomorrow, which I believe was a single they had out. And then there's a cover of the Billy Idol standard White Wedding, where it's faster than Billy Idol's version. It's dirtier, it's heavier, it's grungier. It's just an in-your-face, hey little sister, what have you done? Female vocals. And it's just really good. Other cuts on here: The City That Fun Forgot, we've all lived in them from time to time. Plastic Lies, Never Too Late, Guardian, the title cut, Ragdoll. Everyone's a little bit of a gem. I think this band is still together. I may be wrong, but if I remember rightly, I did check these out about a year or 2 back. I noticed they were still together, like they hadn't actually released anything for a couple of years. Got a couple of other albums by these guys as well. Again, well worth looking out for. So, yeah, Factor Records and Doll with the Ragdoll Diaries. Really good album. Okay, next up we're going to go vinyl again. And the first appearance in these series of videos by one of my favourite bands, Wishbone Ash. There's the front. This is Number the Brave from 1982. I think it's 82, I'll double check in a minute. There's the back. You got a plain side, and then you got that side with all the lyrics and the album credits on it. Let's go have a quick look at the spindle. 81, sorry, not 82, 81. It was one of those albums around that period. Now, Wishbone Ash have been in my favourite band list ever since I first heard. No, it wasn't Argus, it was No Smoke Without Fire from a couple of years before. This was the first Wishbone Ash album I actually listened to, and really liked what I heard, and been a fan ever since. I got about 60% of their releases. Some of their later ones I can take or leave. The most recent one I thought was pretty piss poor, but can't even remember the title of it. But anyway, but most of their stuff from the 70s through the 80s I quite like, and this one I would probably rate up top 5 Wishbone Ash albums for me, maybe top 10. Not my favourites, because I said that's either going to be Argus or No Smoke Without Fire. There's the Rubs, another good one. But anyway, this is came out in 1981. Notable for having John Wetton, the guy that has seemed to kind of make his life work to play with nearly every British kind of band on earth that was even slightly progressive. Along with Andy Turner, Joe Weisfield, the 2 guitarists, and Steve Upton on drums. Yeah, with John Wetton also providing the keyboards. And it's quite a good album. I mean, it's typical Wishbone Ash. You've got the kind of it's kind of laid back kind of vocal approach. You've got although in places John Wetton, because it's John Wetton doing some of the lead vocals on here, it's not all that laid back in places, I'll give it that. Tracks like Underground and Roller Coaster tend to kind of lean forward a bit, but you've got all that really slick harmonic twin guitar stuff, and yeah, the songwriting's pretty strong. Cuts like Loaded, say the aforementioned Underground, Kicks on the Street, Number of the Brave itself, which is my favourite cut on the album, Rainstorm. Everyone's a pretty worthy addition to the Wishbone Ash canon. Never kind of, I remember, I've seen Wishbone Ash about 4 or 5 times over the years. Can't ever remember him playing anything live off this album. Although it was a good few years between me getting into Wishbone Ash and late 80s, and I eventually managed to get and see him live. But overall, good album. Yeah, not a classic Wishbone Ash album by all means, but a worthy addition to the canon. Yeah, recommended-ish. Okay, next up, we're going to have a quick blast at my musical past. We'll have a look at this one. There's the front. There's the back. This is Born for Speed by Bristol Metalhead's Osmium. There's the inner sleeve, there's a nice picture, and I'll whip the booklet out, or the inlay card, the tray, the folded up bit of paper. There's the centre bit. Now, Osmium were a Bristol old school power metal band. Now, they were formed back in about 1990-91 under the name of Strange Institution, and for my sins, I was the original vocalist. And yeah, I was with them for about 2 years, and then kind of I wanted to move on to other things, and kind of I'll be honest with you, I had a disagreement with the bass player as he was then. And basically I quit the band, mutual decision. They changed the name to Osmium, and went on to become kind of quite successful, but a big cult draw. They could pack out most of the venues in Bristol, and they did it with the thing that I started with the band, but then my replacement in the band, Ian Reason, kind of took on to the nth degree. We used to muck about, throw things at the audience, throw beer over each other, stage props. I mean, I used to have a Flashers Mac with pockets full of sweeties, throwing toffees at the Quality Street at the audience. Ian went on to drinking blood out of skulls and that kind of impaling people, that kind of thing. Yeah, sort of Alice Cooper with tongue firmly in the cheek. Now, this album came out a good few years after I quit the band. There's one track on here, Burn Me Down, which dates from my period in the band and I did the lyrics for, but yeah, to my opinion, that's the weakest track on the album. You got Cry of the Redskin, Woman, Vampira, Born for Speed. This is, yeah, a lot of these guys are bikers as well, so you got it's kind of biker rock, it's heavy metal, it's Dumpy's rusty nuts in a fist fight with Iron Maiden. Good way of describing it. Sadly, the band never actually broke up. They kind of went on long-term hiatus as various people went on to do various other personal things, you know, families, etc. And you know, I still, even though I'd not been in the band for a few years, me and a couple of the other guys that had passed through the lineup were still mates, and we were planning a kind of farewell gig, you know, and the idea was we were going to get all the old lineups together, you know, people, because I'm the only person that's passed through the lineup, you know, a couple of other people as well, Al Theobald, etc. And we were going to do a farewell gig with all the various people doing various numbers and a big massive rendition of Sex Gods from the Planet Metal at the end. However, just like at the moment where we got the COVID crisis, we had the, I think it was the swine flu or the avian flu. And sadly, Chase Morris, one of the lead guitarists, didn't make it, died in Addenbrooke's Hospital. And that kind of took the wind out the sails of any kind of, yeah, because, you know, although he was one of the guys that joined after I left, he was one of the mainstays of the band, and we decided, you know, there was a little bit of a jam organised at his wake, but beyond that, we just dropped the idea, so we never did close the chapter on Osmium. Shame. Anyway, this album, Born for Speed, nice bit of sort of like comedy power metal. Worth checking out if you get a chance. Again, you're going to have to check this one down. This is a collector's item. This was only ever sold at gigs. So, yeah, Osmium, Born for Speed. A rarity, but not just because I'm on the credits, but a rarity, but this is brilliant. I'm not playing on this album, by the way, so I'm not battering myself up. This is the guys I was playing with. I've always had a habit. Never been a particularly good musician myself, but I've always been blessed by playing with some really good talented geezers, and some of them are on here. So yeah, so this one's especially this review is especially dedicated to my old muckers, Dave Ribbett and Eddie Osborne. Okay, next up we have this one. This is an EP. Warfare, True Tribes EP. The metal noise mix. There's the front. There is the back. And that's it, no in sleeve or anything. No, nothing else, that's just that. Now, Warfare. 3-piece band out of Tyneside from the same scene that gave us Venom. That should give you a kind of clue where they're coming from. Can't remember what year this one came out. 1984. Same year as their debut album Pure Filth. That's right. Now, like Venom, I don't know what it was on the scene up there, but you had kind of, at the time, Venom were kind of laying down the sort of basis for what's now universally known as black and death metal. Warfare were on the same scene, doing a similar kind of thing, but you know, these guys were leaning more towards crusty kind of grindcore, etc. You know, amazing that kind of two quite influential music scenes all came out of the same couple of bands. I think there was Atomcraft doing similar kind of stuff at the same time. But anyway, never quite got the infamy or the acclaim or the laudits in later years that Venom got. Warfare was still a cracking band. they suffer from all the same problems that Venom suffered from at the time, i.e. they were kind of way ahead of the curve in what they were trying to do. They were kind of maybe not the world's greatest musicians, but even though they were kind of shaping what they were doing to fit what they could do, it was still kind of alien to the ears at the time, so therefore they weren't exactly the most popular of bands. And yeah, and you know, they were most of the time on Neat Records, which is, though it's a cult underground label, wasn't a label that famous for being really good with promo and distribution, etc. So, you know, you got an obscure band playing some fairly inaccessible music for the time on a label that's, you know, hard to get your hands on. It's a wonder these guys survived as long as they did. They did a couple of EPs and a couple of albums. I don't know if they're still together or not. I know there's periodic reformations, but yeah. But anyway, get on to this track. It's release generally. Two Tribes. Yeah, it's the Frankie Goes to Hollywood number. You know, two tribes go to war. One is all you can score. But it's kind of, it's got, it's a thrash metal, it's a thrash grind punk version of it. Yeah, it just belts along as a, you know, the Frankie Goes to Hollywood were all kind of up tempo and dancey and gay rights and yeah, kind of pride and all that kind of thing. This is a, compared to, if say the Frankie Goes to Hollywood version is a gay pride parade, this is a fist fight in a back alley. It's the same song but completely different kind of vibe to it. It works, don't get me wrong, and lyrically the song works better on here than it does on the Frankie version, but hey, you know, I quite like the Frankie Goes to Hollywood version as well, so you know, I'm not going to pick sides. But anyway, it's just a great version of a great song. You know, maybe it's that Frankie Goes, the whole Two Tribes thing. It's a great song, so you can do what you like with it, and you know, you could do it completely different ways. It will still come out as a great song. The other two tracks on here, Hell and Blown to Bits, are a bit generic for Warfare. Yeah, Warfare weren't the most original of bands, although, you know, I still quite got a soft spot for them. Yeah, I think the tracks off this EP are out on the CD reissue of the Pure Filth album. Although, you know, I may be wrong, but I'm just proud to have. I've got all the other stuff as well, but I'm just proud to have this in my collection, the original 12-inch Warfare, Two Tribes, the EP. Good stuff. Okay, last one, he says, reaching for this, and going to finish on a CD today. This is Mournblade's Time's Running Out 2015. From 2015. There's the front. There's the back. On here, a little handwritten note from Rich, the guitarist. There's the behind the disc. There's the disc itself. And inner sleeve here. Just some basic sleeve notes and history recording of the album and the re-recording of the album. Now, Mournblade, again, these guys fall into the category of one of my all-time favourite bands. I got into these completely by accident. It was 1984 or 1985, one of the two. I go down the old, again, the Granary Club in Bristol, sadly missed. I go down there to watch the Groundhogs. The Groundhogs had pulled out the gig because of illness. However, the support band went ahead, and we got given the chance of going for a couple of quid and see the support band, or, you know, bugger off. Well, About 35 people went in, and it was no more than 35 people went in to see the support band. And this band called Mournblade hit the stage. Now, these guys were like Hawkwind meets Motorhead. They had elements of new over British heavy metal, but they were also quite proggy as well. The lead singer, Duncan Mullet, was face done in kind of black and white checkerboard with sort of like pile of skulls made out, you know, it turned into a mic stand, swinging a great big black sword around his head while singing about Elric. These guys were kind of proggy space hippie rock personified. They were brilliant. The guy that did the promotions down, I can't remember his name, but the guy that did the promoting down at the granary, got these guys back within about 6 weeks, and on word of mouth alone, they sold the place out. The granary had a maximum official capacity of about 450 people. There must have been about 600 in that club that day. It was sardines to the door. And, you know, Mournblade became hugely popular, not only in Bristol, they were doing this all over the country. These guys were becoming like one of the underground word of mouth successes. They eventually got signed to GWR Records and kind of had a slight line-up change, toured with Motorhead, but then they had major record labels fighting over them, and basically, talking to some of the band long after the event, they were being told, well, you know, if you sound more like the Little Angels, or if you sound more like Poison, or if you go and cut your hair in a certain way, if you dress in a certain way, and these guys were a bunch of hippie biker, stoner convoy merchants from London. These guys didn't want to sell out and join bite the MTV bullet. They broke up. They called it quits. They just walked away from everything. And then, about 2014, 2015, they came back, did a live album, and then they went back to do their first album, Time's Running Out. Now, there is a cassette-only demo album called The Eternal Champion, which I've never heard. I'd love to hear a copy of that, but never heard it. Came out before this. But Time's Running Out was a little kind... Well, the story goes, they were being courted by Flickknife, who were a really kind of sort of leading British underground label, worked with bands like Hawkwind and Red Lorry, Yellow Lorry, etc. And Flickknife wanted Mournblade. Mournblade was sort of like, were in the process of demoing material. They had they had 6 tracks done on an 8-track demo tape, demo recorder, and sent the this 8-track master up to Flickknife, who, whether it was deliberately done that way or whether it was just misunderstanding, thought that was the finished album and released it. I've got a copy around somewhere, and I will drag it out and wave it in front of the camera at some point in the future. But consequently, you had this album that was kind of interesting, but, you know, the production was down, the performances weren't exactly on fire in places because, like I said, these guys were recording it as a demo, not an official release. And basically, you know, it was disappointing. So they decided, when they reformed, to get the original lineup together from the first album and re-record it, adding in some other tracks they never recorded. So you've got In the Arms of Morpheus, Battle Zone, Sidewinder, Titanium Hero, Hunter Killer, and Laughter from the Mask, which were the 6 tracks on the original album, chucked in with 3 other tracks, Science Friction, Stairway, and Desolation, which were songs they were going to record on the debut album but never got around to doing it. This time they managed to do it remotely, because in the intervening years between the breakup in 1990 and this recording in 2015, you know, Duncan, the vocalist, had moved to New Zealand. Hi Duncan, if you're listening. Good mates. Now, one of them was still in the UK. I think it was Richie, the guitarist, still in the UK. And the other 2, one was in Ireland and one was living in the US. So, the It was all done through emailing sort of like tracks and remote recording sessions, etc. But overall, it works really well, and it brings out what that first album should have been. Maybe not got the guts and the drive and the kind of rawness of the original recording, but you know, it shows what a band that Mournblade could have been. And if they'd recorded the album like this back in 1985, I'm pretty sure the future would have been very different for them, you know. But anyway, that's the way it goes. Mournblade's, the time's running out, 2015 re-recorded version. That's our final one for today. Highly recommended. Mournblade is still officially together, although geographic separations mean they can't get together that often to gig or tour. They do it once every few years. But this is still available. Bandcamp, most other places. If you like your space rock, you like something really quirky but really good. Yeah, I said, it's got elements of Motorhead in it, it's got elements of Hawkwind, it's got bits of kind of classic Marillion or Palace. It's Pink Fairies, Man. It's all here. It's great. Go get, you'll not regret. So, that's this week's. Hope you liked what you hear. And don't forget, like and comment down and subscribe down there, because it does help spread the word. And if you want to hear me on the radio, the 2 radio shows, if you're on YouTube, the links are going to be down there. If you're on Facebook, the links are going to be over there. Got to remember, point at the window. That gets it right on Facebook. Anyway, peeps, hope you enjoyed that. I want to hear your feedback. Have you heard these albums? Got any requests that I might have in my collection I might be able to drag out and review for you? Yeah, let me know. And until next week, peeps, I loves you. Bye.